Are y'all looking to create a graphic for event, but you don't have a graphic designer to do it real quick, and also you don't have graphic design experience? Well, I'm gonna teach y'all a step-by-step process that will allow you to create a graphic design that is effective, simple, and easy to make, but especially cute. You know what I'm talking about? Welcome back to our Spaces YouTube channel, y'all. My name again is Fred Villa. I'm the graphic design co-creator here at Spaces, and today we're going to go over graphic design 101. In this step-by-step process, I'm going to go over the very specifics of my process. We're going to go over fonts, colors, and textures. Those are like the three basic things y'all really need to know to understand in creating a graphic design and creating something that's very simple and effective. You're going to start off with the font. The font is the most important thing because that's what's essentially going to communicate the piece of information that you want to put out there. That's going to be like the title of the event, the date, what the event is, what it's about. So usually I like to start off with like an accent font. Usually this kind of applies to your title and like subheader like titles, and you kind of have to pick something that's very readable because you want something that's very loud and out there and like different, but you want to make sure it's very readable and accessible to those that can't see as clearly as others. So that's something to take note of when you're looking for that accent font. And here are some like little examples of like fonts and stuff that I like to use. And moving on, we're going to go into the body font. So the body font is essentially kind of like the body text that's describing the event, laying out the dates for the event, and just kind of like the nitty-gritty details that you kind of need to imply out there for the public. And this has to be way more simple and very to the point. I like to utilize more fonts that are a little bit straighter, that don't really have a lot of curves and a lot of like accents and stuff like flying around, you know. These are examples of body fonts, body text fonts I like to use in my graphics. The last thing we're going to go over for font is placement. So when you're reading a text, you want to go from top to bottom. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like in one straight line. It can start from like the corner of the page and trickle down to the bottom. So you want to play around with placement, but make sure it kind of follows that formula of going from the top to the bottom of the page. So next we're going to be moving on to colors. So essentially when you're kind of playing around with colors and stuff, what I like to do is sometimes I usually play around by eye, kind of seeing what's easy on the eye, how colors kind of communicate with each other and how they work with each other. Sometimes folks can't really do that by the eye, so I suggest if you're not a graphic designer or don't have like the exact eye for that, I suggest looking up color palettes that will allow you to kind of see how different colors can cohesively work together and be easy on the eye. Something to really take note is that certain colors evoke certain emotions or moods or vibes. So that's something to really take note of when you're creating a graphic. One thing to make sure of when you're playing around with colors, to make sure that your text stands out from the background of the color. So you want to make sure you have text that's very readable and stands out and is more bold from what the background color is. Because if those two colors blend together, it's going to be very hard and not accessible for folks to read and understand what you're trying to communicate to them. Finally, y'all, we're going to move on to textures. And textures are like one of my more favorite things to kind of like play around with graphics. Textures make certain graphics stand out a little bit more. So it's not just like a flat color all the time. There's a wide variety of textures that you can play around with. There's gradients, there's paper textures, there's wall textures, there's nature textures, and there's watercolor textures. There's just a whole variety that you could play around with. You just kind of have to look up a certain color and the texture that you're looking for. And you want to make sure the texture of the background is like easy on the eyes. So a little tip for y'all is to reduce the opacity, so that way when you're kind of playing around with the textures and stuff, it's not really screaming at you, you know what I'm saying? You want to make sure the text is readable as well, because if the texture is a little bit too loud or if it's very overpowering, it's not going to allow the text to be readable, and that's going to be hard. So I definitely recommend reducing the opacity just very slightly, or having another layer on top and reducing the opacity of that. That is it, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to this video. I hope this helped you out in some way, shape, or form. I know design is not everybody's forte, and that's alright, baby. Like, you got it. I hope this is like an easy step-by-step process you could do and apply to more graphics to create really dope events and really advertise your events effectively. Make sure to keep up with everything Spaces. Check out the Spaces website, something that we just recently redesigned with the media team. It's very new, very fresh, very dope, so make sure to check it out. Thank y'all again for tuning in, and I'll catch you at the next video. Doses.